The fluorescent lights hummed softly above her, but the world around Mara felt like it was tilting. She stood in the middle of the cereal aisle, gripping the handle of an empty grocery cart as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. It was supposed to be a simple errand: milk, bread, maybe something quick for dinner, but her vision blurred, and the shelves seemed impossibly far away. Her hands trembled as she tried to blink back the tears burning in her eyes. She bowed her head, pretending to study a box of oatmeal, hoping no one would notice her falling apart in public. But someone did. A few feet away, a man paused, tall, quietly observant, a little rugged in the way that single parents often are. His name was Aaron, and he could see her shaking from where he stood. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and the beauty of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps these stories reach more hearts. Mara's day had begun unraveling long before she stepped into that store. She had woken up to an eviction notice pinned to her apartment door. Her job, already tenuous after several cut hours, offered no guarantee she'd be able to catch up on rent. She'd gone through 2 interviews that week, neither of which had led to anything but polite rejections. And now, as she stood among neatly organized shelves and bright labels, the weight of everything pressed down on her. She wondered how such a colorful place could coexist with the grayscale storm in her chest. She didn't expect anyone to see her. Most people hurried through stores without making eye contact. It was easier to stay invisible. But when she finally lifted her head, brushing her sleeve across her cheek, Aaron was there. He wasn't staring in judgment or discomfort. Instead, he watched her with the soft, cautious concern of someone who recognized the signs of a person quietly breaking. Aaron knew those signs because he had worn them once himself. After his wife passed away 3 years earlier, he had survived many grocery aisles with a mask of composure stretched thin over a heart in pieces. He had learned to notice what others didn't: the trembling of fingers, the half-swallowed gasp, the desperate attempt to seem fine when nothing in life felt stable. His little daughter, Grace, sat in the child seat of his cart, swinging her legs and looking around curiously. She tugged on his sleeve when she noticed Mara's tear-stained eyes. Mara tried to move on, to pretend she wasn't moments away from collapsing, but her body refused to cooperate. Her knees weakened, her throat tightened, and she gripped the shopping cart to steady herself. She didn't want to cause a scene. She didn't want pity, but she felt herself sinking, like she was being pulled underwater with no air left to breathe. Her mind spun back to all the things she'd been juggling alone: her mother's medical bills, the job instability, the rent, the fear of losing the tiny apartment that held the last pieces of her childhood, the only place that still smelled faintly like the vanilla candles her mother had loved. Memories were scattered everywhere in that space. Photographs on the fridge, the crocheted blanket on the couch, the potted plant her mother had nurtured to full bloom before illness dimmed her strength. Mara felt as if losing the apartment meant losing her mother all over again. Aaron stepped closer, but gently, as if approaching a wounded bird. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't bombard her with questions. Instead, he offered the quiet presence of someone who wasn't trying to fix her, but simply didn't want her to face the storm alone. Grace watched Mara with the wide-eyed sincerity only children have. No judgment, just empathy. Something about that small, innocent gaze almost undid Mara completely. But she inhaled shakily, grounding herself. She wasn't someone who accepted help easily. Life had molded her into someone who survived alone, even when it hurt. Yet the sincerity in Aaron's expression felt like a safe harbor in a sea she'd been drowning in for months. She found her voice only in small, fragmented breaths. She apologized, though she wasn't sure for what. For the tears? For being seen? For being human? She didn't know. Aaron simply nodded, as if telling her she owed him no explanation. There was something deeply comforting about not needing to speak. And strangely, she didn't feel embarrassed, just exhausted. The moment stretched quietly between them before she finally gathered herself enough to move her cart forward. She wasn't ready to talk, and she assumed the encounter would end there. But as she stood in line later, clutching a carton of milk and a loaf of bread she wasn't sure she could afford, she noticed Aaron a few places behind her. Grace waved at her. Mara forced a small smile. When it was her turn to pay, she discovered the total was a few dollars more than she expected. She hesitated, heart sinking, and reached to return one of the items. Before her hand touched the conveyor belt, the cashier scanned something behind her. Mara looked up in confusion. Aaron had stepped forward, placing a few items of his own onto the counter, and he offered her a brief, kind nod. He didn't make eye contact long, and he didn't say a word, but his intention was unmistakable. He wanted her to keep her dignity, not feel indebted. She whispered a thank you, her voice barely audible. Aaron didn't ask for gratitude. He simply smiled at Grace, then at Mara, and waited for his turn with the calm patience of someone who had learned the value of small, gentle gestures. Outside the store, the late afternoon sky stretched wide and pastel-colored over the parking lot. Mara loaded her small bag into her car, fighting another wave of emotion. She wasn't sure why this moment felt different. Maybe it was because she hadn't felt seen in so long. Not truly seen. Not beyond the surface of polite exchanges and the routine motions of surviving. Aaron approached her then, pushing his cart with Grace humming softly beside him. Mara straightened, unsure of what to say. But Aaron didn't make things complicated. He simply told her to take care of herself, and though the words were simple, something in them carried a depth that settled warmly into her chest. He spoke like someone who genuinely meant it, not out of obligation or pity, but because he understood how heavy unseen burdens could be. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Grace waved again before Aaron lifted her into their car. Mara watched them for a moment, this small, tender duo who had stepped briefly into her day and shifted something inside her. She hadn't realized how starved her heart had been for kindness, how much she needed the reminder that the world still held gentle people. Over the next few days, Mara noticed something unexpected. The heaviness she carried didn't vanish, but it loosened. She found herself recalling Aaron's quiet understanding when her mind spiraled into fear. She remembered Grace's innocent compassion whenever she doubted her own strength. It reminded her that even if she felt alone, she wasn't invisible. She wasn't as isolated as she had convinced herself she was. That small moment in the grocery store became a spark. She filled out more job applications. She reached out to a coworker who mentioned an opening at another company. She talked to her landlord and, to her surprise, discovered he was willing to give her an extra month to sort things out. Her life was still complex, still uncertain, but the impossible weight felt a little more manageable, all because a stranger cared enough to notice her shaking hands. And then, 1 week later, fate nudged gently at her door again. At the community center where she'd gone to drop off paperwork for assistance, she saw Aaron and Grace walking in with a bag of donated items. Grace spotted her first and beamed. Mara felt a flutter of something she couldn't name, something warm, something hopeful. Aaron gave her the same gentle nod he had offered in the store, the kind that carried quiet solidarity. Mara realized then that sometimes God sends the right people at the exact moment we're about to fall. Not to rescue us, but to remind us we weren't meant to carry everything alone. And sometimes it takes a grocery aisle and a trembling pair of hands to open the door for Grace to enter. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories just like this. Your support truly keeps these messages of compassion alive.